What up, Lou? You guys ready to get this party started? We're gonna give a few more minutes for everybody to roll in. While we're waiting, I want to set the tone early that this is not just infotainment that you could sit back with a glass of wine or a beer or your evening tea and just sit around and watch. This is to participate in. We're gonna start that right now. So I want to see in the chat as we give a few more minutes for everybody to roll in. But where are you from? Love seeing where everybody's from. Let me know where you're from. First and foremost, let's see that in the chat right now as I admit everybody. Zach, I'm going to make you co-host so that once we do get rolling, if you could just handle anybody else in the waiting room, that would be huge. We got Long Island, LA, Philly, from all over. So excited to be here tonight. Cannot wait to. I got a presentation I've never ever done outside of the Honey Badger Project planned just for you guys because Kalu is my fam. I don't know if you know that, but I've been involved since literally day one, since Zach had this little baby brainchild of his idea baby with Steph, and he called and we connected on Instagram, and I've been here since day one. So it is just an amazing full circle moment for me to be here with you all, and I cannot wait to just give you everything I possibly can to help you get the clinical freedom and the personal freedom you deserve, you've been looking for, and that's why you're here. Zach, you got the co-host, you in? Good to go? Sweet. So let's see where else. So I'm from New Jersey, if anybody didn't know that. We got a ton of East Coast. We're from all over. This is really a good spread. One more question for you, because this will help me shape the presentation a little bit, and then we're going to get started more formally. How many people are looking to launch a business, let's say, as soon as humanly possible? You are here because in the next 90 days, you are like, I want to have this thing launched either on the side or for full-time on your own thing. Put a 1 in the chat if you are here because you're looking to make this happen as soon as humanly possible. Put a 1 in the chat if that's you. Put a 2 in the chat if you're like, not so much, but definitely soon, like that 3 months to 6 months, maybe up to a year tops. Like, if you put a 2 in the chat if you're that 3 months to a year-ish level where you're like, it's coming, but you're not as eager or as in need as people in the 1 category. And then give me a 3 if you're here like, I'm just preparing. I am a super prepared person, and I am looking for education years in advance. I'm just seeing what's available. This seems different. This feels different, and I'm planning for the long term. So we really got a good mix of everybody here, which is pretty cool. And this is going to serve all of your needs. I did cater it to the people who are looking to get launched very quickly. So that's my goal here. We are getting very tactical. This is not one of those webinars where it's all just the why. I don't know if you've been to one of those where it's just all very high level and it's just really, it doesn't go that deep. Like, we are going on the ground tactical level here today. And it's really catering to the people who are looking to move fast. And if you already are a business owner, like it looks like Chad here, this is going to give you some immediate ideas on how to potentially pivot or add to your concept today. So I'm really excited to bring this to you. It does look like we've settled into the number of people. We got 60. That's a nice crowd. All right. Why the hell am I even here? Who is Frank Benedetto, and why should you even listen to me or trust me? And what gives me the authority to speak on this topic? And I'm going to tell you my backstory. My backstory is a bit dark. It is rooted in a story that changed my life. I was 26 years old. I was already a double board certified doctor of physical therapy. I was very lucky to know exactly what I wanted to do young. I was 16 when I knew I wanted to be a DPT. I was young for my grade, did a 3-3, graduated with my DPT at 23 years old, immediately started studying for the OCS, then did the SCS after that. I was already starting to help launch clinics for an employer. I had already purchased a home. I had 2 kids. By 26, I by all conventional wisdom, I had the world in the palm of my hands until this one moment that just shook my entire world. It was 2 a.m. on a Friday night. I had worked a 14-hour shift, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And after doing notes, I was too tired to go check it out myself, the situation that was going down. Turned out to be one of the worst regrets I ever had in my life. So it's 2 a.m. and the phone rings in my house phone. This is 2012 when those still existed. So the house phone rings and you know that's never good. I answer, and it's my sister Diane, and she's out of breath. She goes, it's happening. It's happening. Get here. I jump out of bed and I'm doing like 60 and a 20. And I get to my parents' house and I see my dad being wheeled out in a stretcher, and he's alive, but he doesn't look himself. And I yell over to the ambulance, like, where are you going? And they tell me which hospital. And I just floor it over to that hospital and I beat the ambulance. I'll never forget those. I have no idea. I mean, it was probably 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but it felt like hours. I'll never forget those minutes leaning against this brick wall against like the ambulance bay is over here and the entrance to the doors to the hospital over here. And I'm in between. And I see the ambulance make the turn. There's no lights and there's no sirens. And I'm thinking he's either dead or everything's okay. Like there's no in between when there's no lights and sirens, and the doors open. And I made eye contact with him, and he was still alive. He looked worse, but he was still alive. And now we're in the emergency room and no one's acting urgently until I start literally yelling, he's having a heart attack. He's having a heart attack. 20 minutes we're there. This is when the doctor in charge makes a joke and says to his team, remember the song Staying Alive, right? If we need anything, just remember this, the beat for percussions is and he starts singing the song Staying Alive. That moment, my dad makes the sound, the universal sound of a human's last breath. If you've ever experienced death, every person makes the same sound, allegedly. Luckily, I've only heard one, but it's a sound that if you do ever hear it, it will haunt you for the rest of your life. And his body goes back, and his last words right before that happened, he reached out. They'd ushered my family away to the waiting room, and I refused to leave. And I'm so grateful I got to spend those last moments with him. And as he reaches out and he says, Sethi, the last name of the cardiologist that mismanaged his care for 15 years, that led to him dying. That's the reason why he never met my third son, the reason why my kids have no memories with him, the reason why I lost him at 26. So when you hear my message and think it might be a little aggressive, there's a reason why. And that's just one example of how the healthcare system failed me and my family. It's just one. I want to get to the stuff that's going to help you, but I want to make sure you understand my why, where the roots are of this. 26 years old, I had it all. I proceeded to implode fully over the next 4 years. That massive head start I had from having a home and this amazing job and all of the things I already shared with you, I blew it all. I became a drug abuser, an alcohol abuser. I pushed away every single person who ever loved me. I nearly lost my family. We had to sell our home. After selling our home, we were in $200,000 worth of self-created debt. Every credit card maxed out. On my 30th birthday, I wake up, and it was one of those days where I think we all have these images of who we think we're going to be at certain landmarks. It's just more clear in our mind. So if you're in your 20s, you have an image of who you're going to be when you're 30, or when you get married, or when you have a kid, or when you graduate, or whatever landmarks are important to you. And on that 30th birthday, I woke up alone in a shitty second floor apartment, literally just food, alcohol, clothes. I could not have been any farther from who I thought I was going to be at 30 years old. Scrounging for just motivation to be able to get through the day. I search YouTube for motivational videos. And this one video, Unbroken Motivation, if you Google, it's still there, Unbroken Motivation, comes up, and it's a series of motivational videos pieced together, concluded by Eric Thomas, which is just, he's an incredible speaker. He's just so hyped up all the time. And as I'm listening to this and pacing, it was literally speaking to my soul. It spoke to every single ounce of my being, that where you are right now, you must take responsibility for where you are and where you want to go. And it doesn't matter what happens to you. It matters, what are you going to do about it? And it just keeps pacing and pacing and pacing. At this point, I'm like literally getting myself so worked up thinking about my old goals, the ones I'd given up on, and who I am on this day and who I thought I was going to be. And it concludes with Eric Thomas screaming in only the way he can. I can't even begin to replicate it. He just starts screaming, I can, just screaming over and over again. And he finishes with, this is the year we're going to make this goal become a reality. I am not going to be talking about it anymore. And he just finishes with, I can. And literally in that moment, I am sobbing like a child. I am hysterical, crying, forehead on the cold tiles in the bathroom. And it was literally in that one moment I decided, and I had maybe anchored a bit too much into an immature goal in my 20s, that I was going to be a millionaire by the time I was 30. I thought I was. And here I was in $200,000 self-created debt, owed my family members money, owed friends money. And in that moment, I decided, since I failed to be a millionaire in my 30th year, I am going to make $1 million in my 30th year. 30 days later, me, Cedric, and one of our best friends opens up a business. 1 year, 2 weeks after that, Cedric calls me. I'll never forget. I'm on the highway, Route 3, if you know New Jersey, past the Chili's. And he just calls up screaming. He's like, we did it. We did it. I have no clue what he's talking about, because once we started the business, we were not very in tune with the financials. We made a ton of mistakes around that stuff. And I'm like, we did what? We did what? $1.1 million in year one. Year two, 2 million. Year three, 3 million. We sell it for 7 figures in year 4. We then launched Counter-Strike and Honey Badger in a very different form Honey Badger was back then. We make 1 million in our first year again in business. I share this not to brag about the money wins, but I share this so you know who I am and where I've come, and the person I had to be and the person I had to become to make that kind of money. And the fact that every single dollar earned represented somebody's life that was touched. And I want that all for you. And it all can be for you. Whatever your version of that goal is, whatever your version of that story is, you can do it. But do you know what the first step was? The first step was me deciding. The first step was me no longer dipping my toe in the water. This first step was me no longer catering to the voice that said, stay safe, stay below the radar, don't take too much of a risk. And for many of you, I fear that it's going to take what it took me, being at true rock bottom. When I say true rock bottom, I don't think there was any level below where I was. Drug addicted, alcoholic, buried in debt. I had a must-win situation. And the sad reality is that some of you simply don't have enough pain in your life, and it's keeping you in mediocrity. I don't want you to have to wait until you hit the extremes of burnout or depression or anxiety or debt or whatever it is that's plaguing you, your demons. I don't want you to have it get that bad like it did for me, because then you'll take action. Then you're in a must-win situation, and then you'll rise up. You can choose to rise up right now. You could choose to rise up today. You could choose to take whatever I teach you in this webinar and actually do it tomorrow, instead of just consuming and consuming and consuming. You could choose to step into the fear, which is why we are called the Honey Badger Project. Because to win in this game means you are stepping into the fear at every single damn turn, and it never goes away. Fear is a shapeshifter, and it will continue to evolve just as fast as you. So before we get into the actual nitty-gritty and the actual tangible takeaways, because there's a ton of those, what I need from you now is an honest introspection, because we have no way of getting to where we want to go if we don't have an accurate starting point, like a GPS. We need to understand where you are right now. And the benchmark that I want you to put in a chat and be vulnerable, because that's what this community is all about, is a scale of 1 through 10. 10 being you living up to your absolute maximum potential. You are like Oprah, Tony Robbins, like the highest level performer that exists is 10. And honestly, they probably don't even give themselves a 10 if they were to take this. But 10 is you are living at 100% of your potential as a human, as a clinician, whatever identities or roles you play as a father, a wife, a husband, a girlfriend, a partner, whatever roles and identity, you as a person. Where are you in living out your potential? Drop that in the chat for me right now. I appreciate the honest answers here. What we need to do today, because the tactics is only going to go so far. This number is what I want you to commit to me right now. That you will no longer be content at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, wherever you landed. There's always another level, and you owe it to yourself. You owe it to your loved ones. You owe it to the people you feel called to serve. That you will no longer be complacent. That whatever level you've reached, even if it's towards that higher, you're going to dig and claw for that 8. You're going to dig and claw for that 5. You're going to push yourself to do something uncertain tomorrow. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to quit your job. And if you read the fine print of my posts, I always give you a couple options. If you're at a job that you don't like, here's what you have to do tomorrow. Have the hard conversation with your boss that you've been dreading. Rally the troops because you know you're not the only one. Stand for something. Say, no, we're not going to put up with these productivity demands. No, I'm not taking notes home. No, I'm not working through lunch. No, I'm not seeing a Medicare patient at the same time as two others. And if that's like, I can't do that, then yeah, you do need to do something bigger. You need to either start researching and find another job. And if you've already done that and you're at the end of your limits, you need to do what I'm telling you to do today and actually put this stuff to use. But bottom line, it is unacceptable for any of you to continue to live at this level. And I want you fully committed that you're going to do something that might look completely radically different for all of you, but you're going to do something to raise your own standards tomorrow. If you commit to that, just put I commit in the chat. I want to see it from every single person that you're going to commit to take some sort of uncertain action, that you're not going to keep playing it safe. You are not going to allow yourself to live a career of mediocrity, because you know what most people do in this world? They make a living, they raise a family, they retire, and then they die. And that's how my dad went. He retired 2 years before he died. He worked his ass off. I'm very grateful for that, because I would have had a lot of opportunities that I wouldn't have if he didn't. But I damn sure would have traded some of those to have him around right now. Hope that served you. Let that energy bring it to the tactics, because there's 3 areas there's 3 parts of business success. There's strategy, there's action, and then there's mindset. Strategy, action, mindset. You're missing any one piece of that, the whole thing doesn't work. You could take a ton of action, be in the right mindset, but you're just posting randomly and you're just doing random shit and you're just charging whatever you think no strategy, you will fail. Right strategy, no action, limited action, you're out. Right strategy, taking action, but you're just petrified. You have fear that's just pervading everything. Your messaging is not going to hit. So I need you to hold all three of those in your body, in your mind, embody that feeling that you have right now, the fired up feeling. Hopefully, if it's transferred, this can't be just a fleeting high. It's not what it is for me. For those of you who know me, this is me. But I cultivate that. It's not natural. All right. You guys ready to get into the tactics? Yeah? All right. So let's do a little tech check here really quick. Make sure. There we go. Can everybody see my screen? Just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen here. Sweet. All right, cool. I love drawing. It makes the entire presentation more engaging. So we're going to do a ton of drawing. So today we're covering why everything you thought you knew about business was wrong and how you're going to start yours in the next 90 days. The reality is I cut out a ton of the philosophy part about why you thought everything you knew about business was wrong. And I am giving you the meat and potatoes of how to start yours in the next 90 days, because Kalu is my fam and I want to over deliver on this wildly. Let's get to it. The first step to building your business is to get super clear on what you want your life to look like. This is the fatal flaw of many successful businesses, because if you don't do this, what you will find is that you will then become a boss to yourself. And I promise you that you are a shittier boss to yourself than your already shitty boss in real life. Your inner critic, your inner voice is definitely more mean than your current boss. So if you do not take the time to build out this step and do the life design worksheet, which I don't know if all of you know, I've already given you access in the Kalu Facebook group. All you have to do is go to the files section, and that is a free asset that I give to the community to help further the mission of anybody who's going to go down the business road. The reason why is because if you do not define what exactly you are launching your business for and the lifestyle that you want to live, the business will expand into every aspect of your life. You will wake up and check your phone and you will be on it until you go to bed. Some of you are already doing that, which you need to stop right now, but that's a story for another day. We need to define exactly what the destination is and view business as the vehicle. Business is the vehicle for the destination of life. Many of you, when I chat inside the DMs and when you hop on phone calls with us, there's a little bit of fear because you're worried about modeling someone else that you know in business, maybe a family member or a former employer, someone that you know that basically traded away their entire life for business. Does anybody know somebody like this? Put a 1 in the chat if this is a little bit of your hesitation why you haven't pulled the trigger yet, because you're worried that this means you actually are trading away your entire life. Appreciate the honesty here. This could not be farther from the truth. As long as you start with this step, and this is like a 6-page document and it's really deep. If you do have a partner in life, if you have a family and you have kids, you should co-create and do this together. If you're solo, that's cool too. Just do it alone. The reality is that if you define and put the constraints around what you want life to look like, we can then reverse engineer the business decisions to make sure that your business plan is in line with the reality of your life. So I can't tell you how many times I see people go through the life design worksheet and then tell me what business model they had in mind. And if all you do is go to a gym and pop open a table, which again, we're covering a lot of hybrid stuff today. This doesn't mean you can't do that, but you have to do it the right way. You have to do it using time leverage mechanisms too. If all you do is go to a gym, pop open a table, and then you tell me, I love travel. I want to travel a lot. My kids play games at night, or I'm getting married soon. I want to be home with my wife or my husband or whoever gets home at 7 o'clock at night. These two things are not compatible. So we have to define exactly what you want out of life. And then we could reverse engineer every single business decision you need to make and using that as a guiding light. Is that clear? Put it in the chat if that's clear. I will be stopping throughout the way. There is no formal Q&A at the end of this. There is a VIP Q&A, which some of you have registered for. So if you do have questions, the time is now for each individual piece, because I am definitely going to be going over time limit. Plan to be here till about 10 p.m. Eastern, because I just overloaded this program to over deliver for you all. All clear in the chat. Cool. Yep. People who've gone through that, even if that's the only action step you take out of this, I guarantee your entire worldview will be changed. Okay, let's get to it. So find your niche. The way I like to draw, instead of having like slides and appear and all that stuff, I just erase. So we're going to just erase some stuff and make it appear. Find your niche. I firmly believe in niche-based business. And I know this is another area where some of you are just like, oh, but I'm a generalist. And I here's the loop. Are you ready for the loop? Frank, I am a generalist, therefore I cannot niche down. Therefore, I will stay a generalist. Therefore, I will never be able to niche down. This is the loop that I hear some of you in. It's like, well, I'm a generalist, so I'll make the loop in the future when I'm an expert. Yet you never actually put yourself in a position to be an expert at anything. And I know the word expert flares up the inner critic. When we say commit to a niche, I'll give you my example. I still run Counter-Strike and I still scale Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is a platform for combat athletes, fighters. We have MMA fighters from around the world, kickboxers, jiu-jitsu, wrestlers. We've worked with UFC fighters, champions, world champions. When I committed to that niche, I had worked with 5 combat athletes, but I knew that I loved them. They were my favorite patients. And I just was like, I just want to do this all day long. I think we all have someone in mind for the most part of who if we wish we could just work with this one type of person or this one diagnosis, we would like just be like, oh my God, my career would be a dream. Does anybody have that? Put a one in chat and list it. If you think you already know your niche, so drop it right now. Let's just start seeing some niches roll through as I continue on talking here. Let me see some niches because we're going to pull some examples in there. What if you have multiple? You absolutely can be multi-niche. And I'm going to give you a really stupid quote that I can't get out of my head whenever somebody asks me this. How do you eat an elephant? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Super corny, weird, I know. But the same way you build a multi-niche business, one at a time. Especially if you are brand new to business, you need to get business reps in. This is a brand new skill set. So we need to take this mystical, super complex, kind of abstract thing called business. So we need to boil it down to the most simplest form. Therefore, one niche, one signature product, one price point, one marketing message. That's the general theme if you're brand new to business. Now, if you have more business experience, then you could launch in a wider scope. And we're going to zone in on this a little bit more as I reveal these, and we could dig in for a little bit more. So when you are finding your niche, there are 3 variables that matter the most. The first one is access. So especially if you are needing money, if you are put a 1 in the chat in that very beginning question, when I said, when are you thinking about launching? And you're like, next 90 days, get me the hell. You're like trying to smash the exit button right now to get out of your job. The number one thing is access. Give you an example. Let's say you're Ryan, who has a dream of working with soccer and golf. Let's imagine that Ryan has no access to soccer players or golf players at all right now, at all. Like, he's not a member of a country club. He doesn't work with any teams. He knows no coaches. He does not have a single point of contact. And Ryan also wants to leave his job in 90 days. These 2 things are not in line. That doesn't mean that we can't then go multi-niche or expand our niche or make that a longer term goal. But we have to understand that the level of access that you have to the population is directly correlated to the speed at which you can monetize that population. We have somebody right now who's building a business for esports gamers. Amazing. He's putting his work in to build his access. He quit his job. He went all in full-time trying to build his access. There's other people who already have a certain level of access, and they're going to be able to pop open their business right away. Next thing you have to keep in mind when you are working and trying to figure out who your niche is. What is their level of intrinsic motivation? Intrinsic motivation. I'm going to circle back to this because it really is 2 sides of the same coin with our last variable here, which is problem awareness. How aware someone already is of the problem that they need you to solve is directly proportionate to the difficulty it takes to be able to market and sell to that person. I'm going to give you an example. Runners. Anybody want to work with runners? Put a me in the chat if you're into the runner population. Runners can just run. They just like put shoes on, they just run. And if you are a recreational runner, you might be just running to run. And if you're in pain, you probably just hop on your bike or your Peloton until it goes away and then you run. Or if you've been running 3 times a week, 5 miles every single time, the same exact route for 2 years, you, the running expert, is cringing like, you need to vary, you need to do all this other stuff, you need to strength train, you need to do. But if that person has no symptoms, they have no known issue, why the hell would they buy anything from you? Why would they need you or your product? They have maybe low intrinsic motivation or not training for in this false narrative, in this fake narrative of this particular avatar. The recreational who's not signing up for a race, who doesn't really have a problem. Just because you brought something to life for runners does not mean that they're going to come out of the woodwork and do it. But if you build it, they will come is the biggest lie. It's a movie. It's not real. What you need to be successful if you're launching a business in the next 90 days is access, a population that has a problem that they are actively looking to solve. So this is one where some of our most successful clients have zoned in on, and there's 2 types of niches. There's an identity first niche, and then there's a problem first niche. Problem first niches, for example, low back pain, scoliosis, ACL reconstruction. These people are very aware especially because of how mismanaged they are from the traditional healthcare system. They're very aware of their own problem. Therefore, they are more likely to be closer to the buying pocket and are already searching for a solution. If you match that with that they are someone with back pain who also wants to compete in a barbell competition of some sort, now you have problem awareness, intrinsic motivation. And let's say you're part of a Facebook group or you go to a gym where these people hang out. Boom, now you have the magic trifecta. And again, for some of you where the goal is not to launch for, let's say, 6 months, a year and a half, you just got the keys to the castle right now. Start building your access. Don't just build a following for the sake of a following, and don't build a following of other clinicians on your account. Try to start building a following of the actual people that you feel called to serve. Speak to them, not each other. The echo chamber is already too loud. I don't want to go off on a tangent on that. Any questions on finding your niche? Drop that in the chat right now. Going once, going twice. Do you recommend? Man, suspense is killing me, Jessica. Identity first or problem first. I knew it. I read your mind. I believe that both can absolutely work. And there are also combinations of the two. So let's say solving a low back pain in golfers, which is a massive problem. It's very common for the population that typically golfs, back pain paired with it because they very rarely exercise. They don't do anything else other than golf. In problem and paired with identity is a magic combination. It is really what you feel called to serve, and know that any of these possibilities are real. If you are sitting here saying, oh, damn, I don't have access, I can't do it. No, it's not that you can't do it. It's just that I'm not going to be the one to bullshit you that you're going to be able to launch a business and make 10K in a month in 2 months from now if you don't already have access. You could start building that. Inside the Honey Badger Project, we have this thing what's called a bridge business. A bridge business might be an access level that you have access to already. And that might be a gym. And we're going to go into this a little bit more in a moment. A bridge business is, Frank, I need to get money. How can I make money? By helping people. We identify who you have access to. And then we also, in a longer term strategy, start to build the way to gain access. So take this as, make sure you're viewing this as not that you can't. I'm just trying to set you up for success. Access is either through social media platforms or being a part of where they go. So we're going to move heavily into an in-gym ecosystem because that's what I do recommend for most people to start off with, and I'll explain why. But access could either be in person, like you already are a member of a yoga studio and you want to treat yogis. If you are a member of a martial arts facility and you want to treat martial artists, it's totally fine, all that. So it could be either online, that you're a member of that community already, or that you are a member of that community in person. What we're also doing right now on my Instagram story is we are giving away 2 assets that were not included in the 20 hours plus of bonus material that many of you have not even logged in to look at. By the way, I can see it. I can see in my dashboard what you did. So I know who's who here right now, but the people who have taken the time to go through it, I know life's busy and I'm always a little hard on you. I'm always trying to push you to do something a little outside your comfort zone. But the people who have dug in, by the way, it is just it's literally 20 plus hours already in there. And on my Instagram story for the next 24 hours, we are giving away 2 assets around finding your niche for free. It's the Find Your Niche worksheet and the Find Your Niche masterclass. So if this is an area where you're stuck on, go over to Instagram, shoot me a DM. I'll shoot those 2 links back to you and we'll continue the conversation. The link to those extra video content is in the original emails. It often goes to spam the first time around. If you do not see it, just shoot me a message, or Mike if you've been in communication with him, and we'll make sure you get all hooked up with that. Is intrinsic motivation their drive to improve, train, compete, motivated to work with you? Yes. And that doesn't always have to be in sports. So let's imagine that it is a postpartum mom who is suffering from either incontinence or pain or something along those lines. They could be just highly motivated people to get back to their quality of life. The intrinsic motivation comes from, I often see people make a mistake where they just build something for an identity, but they're not actually solving a problem or reaching a goal. So if all you do is bring something to life for runners, but it's not obvious what problem you're solving for runners, and if they even understand that that's a problem, because oftentimes we know things that is a problem for them, but they're not perceiving the problem in their own life. We need to solve real world problems and help people achieve real world goals. The more motivated someone is to achieve their goals, the more understanding they are of their problem awareness, the better off you're going to be in having business success. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work the other way around. It just means that your marketing has to be at an expert level. If somebody is unaware that they have a problem, the first step in your marketing is actually what we call problem awareness, which is helping them realize that there's a problem, then helping them realize there's a solution, then helping them choose you as the solution to that problem. It takes a lot more work. You need a lot better copywriting skills and marketing skills. So again, my goal and the promise here was to help you get set up fast. If you don't have access and you're in that category of people looking for 6 months or a year, absolutely, work at it, try it, get the mentorship you need to be able to have your marketing skill reach that level. Great questions. Let's move on. So we have one other little myth busting about niching, and then we're going to go into the more specifics. So we're going to go high level. We're going to go all the way down to the weeds. So the dartboard analogy. A lot of times people, I'm going to use actually 2 analogies. There's a dartboard analogy. Now we're also going to use the microscope analogy. Think back to lab. Do you remember being in lab? You have the little slides in front of you, and you take the slide and you have to turn all the knobs and different zooms, and you finally get it. You can look at all the stuff, and you could leave all of the settings the same. Take out what looks to be an identical slide, slide it in. What, lo and behold, it's fuzzy. You can't see it. You have to zoom out or you have to zoom back in. Niching is like the same thing. If you say, I help people with lower back pain is one of the largest, most profound, most common problems in orthopedics in the world. We probably need to sub-niche down below that. So the dartboard might be back pain. Your center bullseye, though, might be a barbell athlete with back pain, or a new mom with back pain, or different ways to slice that. However, if your niche is tennis players, you are already really niched down. We do not need to say that I help recreational tennis players or I help college tennis players, because unless you have direct access to a ton of college players, you have over niched. And now you don't actually have access to the available market to make this a business idea. So depending on your niche, you may need to sub niche down, identify your center bullseye, or you actually have permission to stay a little bit wider. Does that make sense? Any questions on this? Drop them in the chat. Going once, going twice. And again, if you want a more in-depth explanation on niching, it's literally a full hour on niching. Just head to Instagram, shoot me a DM. How to know if you've niched too far? I would love to give you a scientific, empirical response to this. I would say that there is probably some way for you to identify market size, but I don't actually believe that we could identify market size for some of these things. You can look at, and I took place in a pitch contest, I came in last, by the way, for Counter-Strike, and I had to find the number of martial arts gyms in the United States, how many average members each gym has. It was based off of a census in 2015, and I was able to come up with how many tens of millions of people do martial arts. I was like, okay, I need 40. Most of you actually need 40 people to change your life. And that's the equation over there, which isn't part of this context, but it is in the bonus, some of the bonus materials. You likely just need 40 clients, 40 total clients, and you are absolutely free of your job, making an amazing living and wildly over delivering for those 40 clients in total. And that is not 40 visits, that is 40 clients. There's so many different ways to skin this. We'll get into that. So how do you know if you niche too far? The market will really tell you. If you are posting and what you're attempting, you're not getting enough hits, you tend to need to widen. There is also just an experience element where, having watched several hundred people go through this process, you start to get a feel for what's going to be too dialed in and what needs to be more narrow. So if you're part of the VIP Q&A, we could always dig into that a bit more and dig in. Let's move on. 2 ways to niche a hybrid business. So hybrid business. How many people here, when they think about going into business, they have the hybrid model specifically in mind, where they want partially in-person treatment, partially digital? Put a 1 in the chat if you're like, yeah, that's where my head was going. I want to be part of a gym or a yoga facility or a sports performance training facility or some sort of home inside of another home. Put a 1 in the chat. If you are thinking about launching your own brick and mortar standalone, meaning you are not inside someplace, but you're going to take out a 5-year lease of your own independent facility, put a 2 in the chat. So 2 in the chat if you are looking to go all in on your own facility. I will say, for anybody doing this, we are not out of the woods yet with COVID. Be careful. Make sure that you are financially sound if you do this. It is definitely viable, but most brick and mortars are looking for a 3 or 5 year lease. They are looking for several months of a security upfront. It is imperative that you have a great marketing plan in place so that you can launch that successfully and not be crushed by the financial pressure. So all of this stuff will still apply for you in that category number 2, but we're just going to take a little bit deeper dive into the in-gym model. It doesn't have to be a gym. It could be inside anywhere. And how many, put a 3 in the chat if you're thinking about driving to people's houses. And that's the primary way you've been thinking about business. Put a 3 in the chat if you're thinking about concierge PT. Okay. My advice for anybody in this bucket is make sure that your niche actually needs this. I do believe that this has been sold as a cure for burnout and a cure for freedom, but I have heard from literally dozens and dozens of PTs, being in your car all day, being in other people's houses is a recipe for burnout. And we often think that it's a justification for high ticket prices. I do not believe in high ticket sessions alone. I believe in getting paid on your outcomes and getting paid on the process that you build, not necessarily your time. So if the reason why you're doing it is because you are working with, and this is a real life example that came out of our platform, because you're working with somebody who has early diagnosis of Parkinson's disease and you want to educate the family unit and you want to optimize their home, amazing reason. You have my blessing to go into that person's home because it is for them. We build businesses for them first, not for us. So if all you're doing is going there because that's how you can charge higher prices and because it's better than the mill, this is not a good reason. You will likely pivot. Let's talk about this. How to niche two ways how to niche a hybrid business. The first way is in-person with digital delivery. What this means is that you are not necessarily using Instagram or Facebook to do digital marketing to the world. So let's just hold on to this sports performance analogy because that's where one of my clinics used to be. In that location, we were not using Instagram to try to get anyone else. We were there and there was hundreds of members. We were marketing to those members. And we would go through any number of ways to do this. And we're going to get really specific in a few more slides. We would go through some variation of in-person care paired with some variation of digital care for that population. Is this making sense? I'll pause for questions after I reveal the next one. The next kind is in-person plus a digital service or product. What this means is that you have some sort of service in person that also could be what I just described in option number one, where there's some digital element to your in-person care. I highly recommend that. But you also have a service or a product that you sell using the internet to people who cannot physically have access to you. Some people simply feel called to serve this way. Some people feel called to serve a niche that mandates it to be this way. Jocelyn with Fit with Fibroids, doctor of physical therapy, felt called to serve women who underwent fibroid surgeries or any abdominal surgery, was what she ended up widening to. There's simply just how many of those are within a 10 or 20 square mile radius of you at any one time. So there was a very real need for her to develop a digital service, and also, as dictated by her life design, too much time in person, even in her own business, was not rewarding or fulfilling to her. She knew that 10 to 20 hours a week was about how much she could tolerate of in-person care to truly bring her full energy. Therefore, she needed a digital service or product. That digital service or product, you are going to use internet marketing, Instagram, Facebook, all the free tools that we're going to get into a little bit about that too. We're going to touch on marketing. I told you we're going to over deliver. Hour and 10 minutes. We're going to get it all in. Promise you. Here's the two options. I have no preference. There is no one better than or one that's going to set you up for more failure or success or anything, but it's just important to decide which one you're going with. Pausing here for questions, drop them in the chat. Let me know what you have here as we prep to go to our next step. Any questions? This one clear, those two options? Now, keep in mind, if you are a brick and mortar, 100% same thing. Okay. So digital delivery versus digital service. Here's the exact, I'm going to skip ahead. We're going to go a little out of order because I really believe that you need to see this. Okay. We're at the slide. Here's 3 examples of hybrid models. First one, in-person evaluations. All follow-up care delivered through digital and or asynchronous plans of care, meaning education, habit tracking, programming, Zoom session occasionally. I'm not a big Zoom person. So this is where somebody will come into your brick and mortar, somebody will come into your in-gym office, you evaluate them, and then every single thing that happens after that is delivered to them using digital assets, digital delivery mechanisms. That's that model, as compared to using Instagram to get someone. I live in North Jersey. Let's imagine somebody in South Jersey is a fighter, a combat athlete. They're frustrated because they can't find anybody who understands the sport to rehab from a certain injury or to train a certain way. They enroll with me through a purely digital product. Does that help give an example of the difference there? In this example right here, I am not marketing to anybody outside of my territory. I'm not marketing to anybody really outside of where I am geographically, physically. Put a clear in the chat. I want to really make sure I want to stay on this as long as we need to, because this is like a fundamental point here. Put a clear in the chat if you're clear, or drop your question, and I'm totally cool to continue staying on this topic. There are no stupid questions. I'll hammer it out. Keep going. I'm going to give a minute. We're going to go back to the second and third options in that slide. I don't want to get too far ahead. Okay. Actually, wait, let me scroll back up. So this option would be that you're catering to your local community. Yes. So you are catering to your local community, but using digital delivery mechanisms to serve them along with in-person delivery mechanisms, as opposed to a purely internet-based offering where you are using the internet to get your clients and you're using the internet to serve your clients. Those are the two fundamental buckets. And then there's lots of possibilities below that. When does in-person play come into play for the second one, John? Good question. What I'm trying to get across in this slide is that you can technically have this option plus a purely internet-based, I really need to make this smaller. You have a purely internet-based offering as well. Oops, I'm all over the place now. There we go. So John, does that make sense? That this is an in-person business, but also has a purely online business as well. I'm going to give you an example. Oh, I had it on me. Duh. Okay. Okay, I'm having a tech issue. There we go. Okay, you see it? So in this offering over here, you have an in-person component, but you also have a purely digital component that uses the internet to market to clients, to get clients, as well as to serve them. John, that clear? If it's not, unmute and let's talk through it.
Hey, Frank.
Yo.
So no, I'm still not clear on when the in-person, so it's just the first model in addition to the second, which is purely online, not.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what makes it hybrid. Got it.
Yep. So I'm going to give you a really tangible example. Catherine, former classmate of mine, graduating class, Rutgers University, 2008. She has an in-person business in Central Jersey that is a women's health clinic. People come into her and they see her in person. She was just selling sessions. She hired a second team member. She has an employee. She was still burning out. She was not satisfied. She doesn't see her kids enough. This is what happens when all you do is sell your hours. What we are helping her do is in her in-person business, we are helping her basically add a digital delivery mechanism to the people who come in and see her. So instead of just buying her hours, they're buying a process. She also feels called to serve her home country in the Philippines, which, as you know, the exchange rate does not work. They cannot afford a single service here, and their healthcare is deplorable. She is building a fully digital service, more towards a product, for that niche. Therefore, she is running both an in-person business and a division of the business that is 100% digital in acquiring clients and serving the clients. Your example does not need to be out of country. Your example does not need to be out of state. But there's a completely different wing of the business. How are we doing? Is this clear?
Clear.
Okay. Any other questions in the chat? And then we're going to move on. All good? Sweet. First step after this, you are going to study your niche. One of the biggest misconceptions about me and the Honey Badger Project, especially of conversation of late, is that we believe that there's one way to do things. This could not be farther from the truth. The fundamental principle to our process is who, not how, first. Nearly every other business coach entity platform, and I don't really identify with a business coach, by the way. I'm a founder of an incubator, but that's for another time. What most people teach is simply charge a lot of money for a session, sell those sessions in a package. Congratulations, you now make more than most clinic owners selling your time. It is certainly better than the old way, but is not what I believe in, is not what I believe is best for you, and is not what I believe in best for the end user. Who, not how. What that means is that the first step into the actual business building process, after you've defined your life design, you've discovered your niche, is to study your niche. You need to study them like you are sent to Africa to investigate why a wild animal is being obliterated on the verge of extinction. You're there to not necessarily intervene yet. You're studying their environment, where they live, what's killing them, what their habits are, what do they eat, what do the locals do. You are like literally just studying them obsessively, and you're studying their problems because remember, people pay to have their problems solved. Yes, they will pay for goals and aspirations realized, but more so we need to be checking the box of that we're actually solving problems. When all we do is slap a price tag onto our skill set and start selling an hour, we have not necessarily addressed their problem. We're assuming that our skill set solves a problem instead of saying, who do I feel called to serve? What problems am I going to solve for them? This is how we reverse engineer an extraordinarily unique method. What I want you all to bring to life is what we call intellectual property, or a unique process. Not just $200 for an hour with me. There's nothing special about that. You kind of don't even need coaching. You just need to go read a sales book if that's all you want to do. Instead, you want to study them. So if you're in a gym or you're in a yoga studio, you need to study what are the members here? What is the culture here? Why do they join this gym? What messages are they resonating with the gym's marketing message? Why do they continue to come here? What is the camaraderie? What is the psychographic profile that joins this gym? If you're going fully digital, same thing. Jocelyn with fibroids. What is the psychographic profile? Deep dive exploration of women with fibroids, what they've been told, what false narratives they believe, what undoing we need to do mindset wise, because our profession sadly ruins people mentally. Now, 3 categories of problems that you're going to do deep dive study in. Hopefully these sound familiar: bio, psycho, social. If we are agreeing that this platform is, relatively speaking, the current gold standard of our actual research base, and I believe in being very prideful on us building businesses around research-based interventions, not needing nocebo language to justify high price points, not using dependency to prolong plans of care, but instead to be so aware of the different problems and the phases of the problems that you create a process that evolves with their changing needs. Chances are someone with 5 years of back pain, chances are they don't sleep well. They don't eat right. They are 20 pounds overweight. So congratulations. We use some manual therapy and heat and stim and they're out of pain in 3 weeks. Did you actually solve that problem? And the insurance companies have tricked us into thinking that early discharge is a sign of success. Early discharge is a trick. You have been tricked into thinking that that is what's best for them. And again, remember, I'm not claiming dependency. I am claiming that we need to put what they actually need to be working on, lifestyle habits, nutrition, and all of the other things, either through our own education or through strategic partnerships, if that's what you need to do. But we need to address the full spectrum of their biological, their psychological, their social issues. Some of these we might not directly address. I'm not pretending that we are a psychologist, but I do think that if we are all here agreeing that pain science is a major fundamental part of our treatment approach, and the way we speak, the words we use is as strong of an intervention as every other thing we need to do, we need to have a really deep dive into these 2 areas so that our products and our businesses don't just solve this. They might indirectly solve some of these, but maybe they also directly solve some of these. I'm going to give you one example. Normalization is one of the greatest ways to induce behavior change. Normalization is when you see somebody, let's say you had 5-10 years worth of back pain, and you now have a belief that this is the way it is going to be. I am going to have back pain for the rest of my life. A conversation with you around pre-existing belief, fear avoidance behavior, these things are good. These things are required. But do you know what's exponentially more effective than that? Seeing somebody who you know felt just like you about a month ago. You actually heard them say, I can't even walk to my car. Never mind around my block. And they come onto a group setting, more of a support group, maybe on Zoom or in person in a seminar. And this person stands up and says, I just walked a mile for the first time in 5 years, crying. The doctors told me I would never be able to do this. Thank you so much. Do you know what that just did for behavior change and pre-existing beliefs and nocebo language and all the other negative effects our broken healthcare system did to the rest of those people? So again, I'm not advocating that it's a standalone. Some of you are, I can't remember your Swiss cheese arguments. They're going to start saying, oh, HIPAA, this, that. There's ways to integrate all of this into your own risk profile and to do it in a way where you get the appropriate consents. But building in the biopsychosocial solutions is critically important here. Next, and this is potentially one of the most important slides, is just outcomes. What do we mean by getting paid on our outcomes? We actually have to define that. When you work with me, this is what we are striving to accomplish. People care about real life, real world changes that they are going to see in their actual day-to-day. They do not care about what interventions you use to get there. It is your job to choose the most appropriate research-based interventions that you believe in, that they believe in, have conversations around that. But we have to get really clear in your business about what outcomes people are getting. And it needs to be beyond just out of pain and into the actual real world of their lives. So if this is a runner who is signing up for a marathon,